the worst out of the two. I really struggled with their left ear, so do stay tuned, and you can see me struggle in trying to remove the impacted wax from the left ear. I've just instilled some olive oil spray to soften the surface. Because the wax and dead skin is so dry, it's very difficult to get a suction grip, and the oil just softens the surface so I can get some purchase. And they have got very narrow ear canals. They do also suffer from superficial otitis externa. So otitis externa is an umbrella term for an infection or inflammation of the outer ear. However, their otitis externa is far better today. It wasn't as dry and flaky inside. They weren't suffering from psoriasis and itching to the ear. So we've given them advice in the past to avoid water in their ears, which they said they've been following, and that's definitely helped with their otitis externa. Now, I can just feel this wax is lodged quite deep, and sometimes it's hard to get a sense of it when you watch the video because you don't get that kinesthetic feel. But every time I'm touching this wax, I just know it's so deeply impacted. I try to use the crocodile forceps and glide the bottom jaw underneath the base of the wax plug, but it just wasn't enough give there. Patient's ear is really narrow, so it's hard to manipulate the instrumentation in that way. I'm just using the ear to, for a better word, to chisel, break up this wax into smaller pieces to defragment it. I think eventually I'm going to use a cawthorn hook. I'm using that more and more, and if you've been watching my videos of late, you may have heard me mention that I'm introducing a new range of instruments. We're just finalising some more of the finer details today actually, but I'm not sure what to call it yet, but I might call it an ear pick, but it would have been perfect for this particular case. It's got a tapered end similar to a cawthorn hook, but the angulation is better with the cawthorn hook. The sharp tip is almost 90 degrees, so it's sometimes difficult to get it close to the canal wall. So with the design I've come up with, it's going to be far easier to glide the tip. The tip is going to be very similar in terms of the tapered end. So I'm really excited about that. So I managed to extract that out of the ear. It just got lodged in the conjure bowl, so I just used my fingers to grab it out of there. The eardrum's intact, slightly red in there. Of course, this is so impacted that you're going to get a bit of dilation of the blood vessels, but otherwise the ear looks healthy. Now here, it's so obvious that this patient's been using a cotton swab, and they're reluctant to at first at least, to own up, but they did in the end plead guilty, and their wife wasn't very impressed because she's heard me give the patient advice in the past to avoid cotton buds, and it's for their benefit, because there's a conception, and I think growing up in my family, we used to use cotton buds. If not, we felt that it's unhygienic not to clean our ears, and we also felt that using a cotton bud does generally remove wax, because when you remove the cotton swab, you see some residual wax coating the tip of the cotton swab itself. But a cotton bud is just going to push this, and if you've got wax, it's just going to push it further. You may be very, very lucky where you've got very sticky wax, and the wax sticks at the end of the cotton bud, and when you extract it, the wax comes out. When you see all that residual wax around the edge of the cotton bud, that's surface wax that you're accumulating. And that wax is healthy. We all want a bit of natural wax. We all have a thin veneer of wax that lines the ear canal. It's invisible to the naked eye. And that protects the skin from harmful pathogens, so bacteria and fungi that may enter the ear and colonise the ear. More importantly, I would say as well, it prevents prevents your skin from drying and cracking. That oil helps the epidermis layer of skin, the outer layer of skin, to retain the moisture. Without that veneer of wax, the moisture will rise from the epidermis skin to the surface and it will evaporate. So the thin veneer prevents dehydration and evaporation of moisture from the surface of the skin, and it also repels external water as well. So it's therefore a reason. But when you swirl it in your ear and you take it out, yeah, you might accumulate some of this wax, but we want that. A bit of wax is good for us. So far, I'm really struggling, and the patient was slightly grimacing. What's great about the endoscope is when I'm inserting it in the ear from the procedure, although my eyes are up on the monitor, you can almost subconsciously, with the corner of your eye, make some eye contact with the patient to see their facial reaction, body movements, and tell occasionally they were grimacing. The problem with this is when it's lodged, and you'll see why it's even more difficult. This patient, very deep near the eardrum, you'll see it at the end of the video, they've got a very localised widening of the ear canal. I think they've got a condition called, very early stages, benign osteonecrosis. That's where the bony part of the ear canal is a certain section, and in this particular pathology, it's normally the bottom part of the ear canal, the floor. It's devascularized, it doesn't have the blood flow that the bone needs to sustain itself, and in the absence of that required vascularization, that bone undergoes a process of necrosis, so it begins to die, and when it dies, you have what we call sequestration, which is when dead bone separates from the rest of the bony part of the ear canal, and it creates a crater, a pothole. So the ear canal sinks in that region, and sometimes it can breach the skin. So the skin itself, because when you've got dead decaying bone, it can sometimes be infected, and then that can cause an ulceration of the skin that lines the ear canal. Now this patient's skin was still intact. It wasn't ulcerated, but that skin had sunk into the floor of the ear canal because of that crater that was being created. Another condition that it may be is a canal cholesteatoma, but for a canal cholesteatoma to occur, there is normally some discharge, some infection, and that skin layer is normally infected and ulcerated, which it wasn't in this case. But canal cholesteatoma is very rare. It's 1 in 1,000 patients who see ENT. Benign osteonecrosis, a bit more common. I think it's 6 in 1,000 cases that attend to ENT audiology, there or thereabouts, maybe supposed to be correct. And they are very difficult to distinguish at times, but I just feel because there's no infection, no discharge here, because that skin hasn't been breached, that it's more benign osteonecrosis, but I might be wrong. So again, I'm just using the Cawthon hook, but every time I go in, I'm trying to hook it out, but it's pushing it further in, unfortunately. And going back to that crater, so the reason I brought that up at this stage is because some of this wax and skin, it's lodged in this pothole, and at the moment it's just not visible, so I'm completely unbeknown to it. So because using the instrument, I pushed it a little bit in, I'm just trying to lever this out, and again I'm just trying to bring this in from the sides, but it's so hard and crusted, even when using the drops. There's no give there. And at one stage I was contemplating to get the patient back after using some drops. It's very rare. I can't remember the last time I've had to bring a patient back, if truth be told. But I just didn't feel this was going to come. Because here, ideally, you want a good suction grip. And I've got a suction grip. I'm going to try and glide it away. And you're going to see, we're going to use a full repertoire of ENT micro instruments. I even used a Rosen and Sight. It's not something that I generally use, and partly because of what happened in this case. When you've got really, really hard wax like this, Rosen and Sight, it hasn't just, it's got a sharp tip, definitely, but it just wasn't strong enough, and it felt like it was almost going to snap inside the ear. Because obviously having such a thin tapered end, it's not going to have that strength and rigidity. If you have it in stainless steel, of course, it's going to be a lot stronger. But when you have it in carbon, for example, lightweight polymer plastic, it's just not going to have that strength. So I've got this new instrument, as I said, the ear pick, and the way we've designed it is that you can hold it in multiple ways to get the best angle. And it's going to be much easier to glide in between the wax and canal wall. So we said that's the idea. Also, I've designed a new ear hook. So here's the rosin insert, and you're going to see, although it's really good at gliding in between, it just wasn't strong enough. And because it's got such a sharp tip, you're just going to be careful. You don't want to make contact with the canal wall because it can be uncomfortable. And with this, you're trying to penetrate it into the wax. That's the idea of it. Trying to glide it behind and scoop it out, it's just not strong enough. You want to penetrate in. I mean, I did try and go behind it and glide it and bring it out like this, but see, right behind this wax, well, more or less behind it, it's just going to come through. And the problem is, it's that moment where you come through and you're putting so much force, is that tip go anywhere. It's going to take a lot of control when you use a rosin inserter. Well, if the wax is a bit soft, I can see the benefits of it. If it's a soft wax, then I won't personally would need to use the rosin inserter. But with the ear hook, I've designed it again in such a way where the tip is a bit more tapered, it's got a bit more of a pointed end, without being too incredibly sharp. And I'm hoping, and again I've changed the angle of it a little bit, and I'm hoping that would have been much better in this case than the standard St. Bart's ear hook that I'm commonly using. It's just a bit thinner, it's got a tapered end, so it could possibly glide in between the wax and the canal wall easier with that, and then penetrate into the wax also. So just going back to the suction, I've got a bit of a grip here, I'm just bringing it forwards. So what other alternatives are there to remove this? So getting the patient back after using some drops, that's a pretty good alternative. I mean, I wouldn't perform irrigation. I think I've discussed in previous videos, or almost all my videos, why I don't like water getting to the ear. I think the data is, I think there needs to be more updated research, but between 3 to 5 patients who undergo irrigation do develop otitis externa. I think it's more on the 5% mark from the paper I read recently. So that every 100 patients I treat, you're potentially putting, it's almost factored in. You're going to, 5 people are going to have an infection, because that's the kind of more or less the rate of infection. I've got colleagues who are GPs, and a lot of GPs in the UK are no longer offering irrigation services, and I was asking them about the infection rate as a result of irrigation, and they themselves, anecdotally at least, said it was around that much. And that's one of the reasons that they decided not to, a lot of the GPs are no longer offering the service because of that. And another reason, I think, more resource-based as well. And the reason why water can lead to infection, first of all, there's bacteria in water. Even if you try and sterilise water, as soon as that goes into the ear, you're going to get other bacteria that enters the ear, or already existing in the ear, that are going to enjoy the moist conditions water provides. Fungi and bacteria, they love dark, warm, moist conditions. So even if it's the cleanest water that you're using, the fact that you don't have residual water into the ear, that can lead to an infection. Water also, particularly if it's warm water, it can wash away that natural veneer of wax. That, again, it's invisible to the naked eye. You're washing that away, and so you're washing away the ear's natural defence barrier. Even if it's not warm water and it's cold water and it's in the ear and you've got a bit of a waterlogged ear, that water will macerate the skin. Think about if you put some fruit in some water, or even if you dip your finger into water and you keep it there, you're going to get softening of the epidermis layer of skin. It's going to almost crumble away. What happens is that skin absorbs the water. Skin cells are hydrophilic, they enjoy water. They'll absorb the moisture, absorb the water, then expand until the point that they swell and burst at the membrane. So that epidermis layer of skin, the protective membrane, is breached, potentially ulcerated, and then bacteria can penetrate the deeper layers of skin, the dermis and the subcutaneous layer. So, and I have been trained in irrigation. It's something that me and my colleagues in ENT surgery, we felt it was a founder of Clearwax. We felt it was only appropriate that we get trained, and because if you want to learn about electron removal, we need to understand all different methods and also experience it. Some people actually, most people don't enjoy irrigation, so a few people do. Myself, it wasn't that bad, it wasn't unpleasant, but I can see why some people wouldn't enjoy it. And it's noisier than I expected as well. One of the things that a justification for performing irrigation as opposed to suction is that microsuction can be noisy, but so can irrigation. Now, each to their own, everyone's got their own practice, so it's completely fine if people want to perform irrigation. I can see the benefits in certain years, in terms of if it's a complex case, but I feel like I'm able to, doesn't matter what case I get, I'm able to perform microsuction or use instrumentation to clean the wax. But what's important, you need to make sure your ears are dry afterwards. Now you can use some 1 part rubbing alcohol, 1 part vinegar, so acetic acid. So the alcohol will homogenize with any excess moisture in the ear, and of course alcohol's got a lower evaporation temperature than water, so it helps to dry out the ear. But that sometimes you can over dry out the ear. Acetic acid is really good because you want to re-acidify the ear. So when you get water in the ear, as I say, it washes away that thin veneer of wax, and that wax provides some acidity, which is helpful in the ear. It helps to fight bacteria and fungi, and also, as I say, insect repellent. So by re-acidifying the ear with acetic acid spray, that can help. Using a hairdryer from a distance, that can help. So that's that crater that you may have known that I mentioned earlier, that benign osteonecrosis.